The News Channel 5 Network. This is SportsLine.
Hey there, SportsLine on your television. Steve Layman here with you. Glad you are here with us on this Wednesday night on News Channel 5 Plus. Once again tonight, we have open phone lines for you guys. Next hour is your show. Call us up. Let's chat. Anywhere you want to take the show, we can talk about it. Want to talk baseball, midsummer races, possible trades coming up here? We can talk that. Talk about the Titans getting set for training camp next week. Now 9 days away from reporting at St. Thomas Sports Park. We can talk about that. Big questions for them. What are they for you guys? What are your questions about this Titans team right now? Call us up, 737-7767. What are your expectations for this Titans team right now? We can talk some about the Preds moves this offseason, how they're looking moving into next year, college football, Conference USA Media Days are going on. Some news from that. Western Kentucky, 20 first-place votes. They are the pick to win the East Division this year in Conference USA once again. Louisiana Tech, the pick in the West Division. Middle Tennessee picked second in the East Division. So that 100 miles of hate rivalry should be very good once again this year. We can talk some Tennessee. We can talk some Vanderbilt. Lots of things that we can discuss tonight on the course of the show. We'll also hear from Derek Barnett, former Tennessee star, 14th overall pick by the Eagles. He's back in Nashville this week. We'll talk to him about why he was here and how he's getting set for his first NFL training camp. Roger Federer, I found this interview kind of interesting the other day, just getting his perspective after winning his 19th Grand Slam title and 8th Wimbledon championship. We'll hear from him. Riley LaChance and the Vanderbilt basketball team getting set for their once every 4 years foreign trip to the U.S. Virgin Islands. That's coming up in August. So we'll get his thoughts on that coming up during the course of the next hour as well. First, a couple news and notes from today. Big news on the eve of the British Open. Brandt Snedeker, oftentimes a trendy pick for these major championships because he's been so good throughout his career but just has not been able to break through yet and win one of those majors yet. Obviously always a fan favorite here in Nashville where he's from and a former star at Vanderbilt. But I hope you're not putting money on him for this weekend because today Snedeker withdrew from the British Open citing a rib injury that he suffered last week. He said the treatment just did not take to make him feel like he could go out and compete, which is unfortunate because you only get 4 chances a year at these majors. And this is a tournament at Royal Birkdale that all the players seem to be raving about the course and the opportunity to play there. So it's disappointing for Brandt for sure that he's not going to be able to compete this week in the U.S. Open. Countdown to camp, like we said, 9 days away. We highlighted a guy on the news tonight in Corey Davis, the number 5 overall pick. He is an interesting guy. All-time FBS leader in receiving yards. Over 5,000 during his career at Western Michigan. They're expecting him to come in right away, stretch the field, and become an immediate impact player for this Titans offense and a weapon for Marcus Mariota. So we'll see just how quickly he can make that impact along with Rashard Matthews. That was the goal. The offense last year with Mariota and the running game and that offensive line, they all graded out very well across the NFL. You've got a Pro Bowl tight end in Delanie Walker as well. It was that receiving core that at times let the offense down, with the exception of Rashard Matthews. So what did the Titans do with John Robinson this offseason? They went out and they drafted Corey Davis 5th overall. They drafted Taywan Taylor in the 3rd round. They got Eric Decker in free agency. They hope that they've solved that problem. And now that this receiving core fits in with the rest of the offense, where when they need to make a play in the passing game, they can count on those guys to step up and catch the football. That's something that was not always the case a year ago. Some baseball this afternoon. Ari Dickey on the mound for the Braves. Not a terrible performance, 4 runs over 7 innings, but the Cubs continue their roll. They beat the Braves 8-2 to sweep that series in Atlanta. The Cubs now red hot. They've won all 6 games they've played since the All-Star break. Moving up in the NL Central and right there in the mix with some of those National League West teams in the wild card race as well. I think you'd have to say at this point the Cubs, even a few games back in the Central, the favorite in the NL Central based off of that division's play and the potential that we've seen now in the last few days. This looks like the team since the All-Star break that many people thought they could be, just like last year. The run differential is huge. The starting pitching has been good. The bats have been there. They're taking that dominant form, at least over the course of a week, that they did all of last season on the way to that World Series championship. Now the question is, can they continue to do that moving forward? We will see. But you don't want to doubt them based off of what they did. And I think the All-Star break came at the perfect time for them because remember, this is the Cubs that went into November last year playing baseball, and then that sparked a celebration in a city and really around the country for a lot of these guys. Ben Zobrist lives down in Franklin. He's the World Series MVP. He's doing parades in Chicago, traveling around the country, doing the speaking circuit. He comes to Franklin. He's the grand marshal of their parade at Christmas time. He's doing everything, and then all of a sudden you're back at spring training and got to play again the next year. I think at times this team looked like a tired baseball team in the first half of the year. They had nobody who was on that team a year ago in the All-Star game last week. Only Wade Davis, who wasn't with them a year ago, went to represent the team. And so all of those guys got 4 days off last week and kind of got to recharge, and they look like a different team coming out of the break, which is good news if you're a Cubs fan. The other note from today, Sonny Gray. Not traded yet, still a member of the Oakland A's, and on the hill this afternoon against the Rays in Oakland. He goes 6 1/3, allows just 2 runs. Another solid start for Gray as the A's win 7-2 this afternoon. Gray gets another win. That's his 3rd consecutive win in 3 consecutive starts. The trade value pumping up for Sonny Gray as we move close to the trade deadline. The former Vandy ace seems to be wearing off any ill effects of the injury that he had in the offseason, the tightness early on in the season. He seems to be finding his form, and that should be very attractive for any team like the Cubs or any other contender looking for a little bit more starting pitching help. Sonny Gray is a guy that certainly could help your rotation the way he's pitching right now. Again, this is your show tonight. We want to hear from you guys. Let's take this wherever you want to go. 737-7767 is the number. And let's get right into the phone calls tonight. Let's go to Dwight. Dwight, good evening. You're first up here on SportsLine.
Oh, yeah, man. I just got to, put it like this now. Now, we've been dealing with this with the Titans for years now. Now, I called last year, and everybody, got frustrated at me because of the comment that I made when I said I'm tired of my team being demolished on the field like they've been getting demolished for the past years. Let's be honest. They can't expect this man to come in on the field and fix this team. They can't. It's about ready to be 10 years since the Titans has went to the playoffs.
Right.
So we need to quit sitting around. Everybody needs to quit sitting around dreaming, thinking that this guy's going to come in and fix the Titans and had them like a 1995 Dallas Cowboy team when that's not going to even happen. Let's just get to the point. That's not going to happen. Now, I could probably see them winning a few games. I get them that. But I don't see them going to the playoffs. I'm just being honest.
Okay. Well, Dwight, let me stop you there because I'm curious. This team won 9 games last year, and if it wasn't for Marcus Mariota's injury and a couple losses earlier in the season when they hadn't gotten it rolling yet, they're in the playoffs last year. So why do you not think this team, which by all accounts has a better roster now than a year ago, why do you not see them getting in?
I just don't see it. It's every time you put them out there against a powerful team, they pressure fold. Now, I give them that. They did win 9 games last year, but can they make it to the playoffs? That's what I want to see. You can win games all season, but can you make it to the playoffs? Because once upon a time, they used to be in the playoffs.
Sure.
But it's like now, it's like they didn't turn into a Raiders team, a bunch of guys just coming to play just to be playing and getting a paycheck. But, yeah, you won 9 games, but can't you make it to the playoffs? Because if you look at it, say the Colts, for instance, they lost a lot of games, but they are still able to make it to the playoffs. People can say what they want to say about their team now, but they made it to the playoffs. It's not about ready to be 10 years since these guys have made it to the playoffs. I just don't see it.
All right, Dwight, we appreciate the call. I think the interesting thing about Dwight's call is you sort of have 2 camps with this Titans team right now. Is you have a lot of optimism because of the incredible growth last season from 3-13 and the #1 pick in the NFL draft to 9-7 and narrowly missing the playoffs. But then you also have that camp over there that says this is a team that hasn't been to the playoffs in nearly a decade, like Dwight said. 2008 was the last time. Until they actually get there, I'll believe it when I see it. And that's a fair argument because, look, they probably were the best team in the AFC South last year. Now, that's a remarkable statement considering where they came from. They won 5 games combined the previous 2 years. They were the worst team in football the previous 2 years. So to say that last year that they were the best team in the AFC South, nobody, including the guys in that locker room, probably believed that could happen at the beginning of the season. But towards the end of the year, that's what they were. The problem was they lost some games early on in the year. They started the season off 1-3. That's a hole that's difficult to overcome. And within the division itself, I mean, this is the bottom line, and this is something they have to change this year. Last year, Houston won the division by going 5-1 against the other teams in the AFC South. The Titans went 2-4. That includes getting swept by the Colts, who did not make the playoffs last year. They were not one of the better Indianapolis teams. But the Titans now have not beaten them since their first meeting back in 2011. When, by the way, the Colts went 2-14 that year, the Titans were one of those wins. Last year, the Jaguars, one of the worst teams in the NFL. Titans lose to them in one of their 2 meetings. They split with the Texans. A 2-4 record last year within the division is what kept the Titans out of the playoffs. They played well when they actually went up against the quote-unquote best teams. They beat the Packers handily here at Nissan Stadium. They beat the defending Super Bowl champion Broncos. They won in Kansas City. They played really well against some really good teams last year. The problem was, and the problem is for this team, if you're going to win the division, which is the easiest way to make it to the playoffs, you have to perform well against the teams in your division. And the Titans have been woefully bad in that category for some time now. And that is something that if they're going to get over the hump this year and go from 9-7 to whatever and get into the playoffs, they have to be better against the Colts, against the Texans, and against the Jaguars. Bottom line. Back to the phones we go. Let's go to Johan. Johan, good evening.
Hey, how's it going?
Going great. Thanks for the call.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the most important things I ever saw, it was during the Stanley Cup playoffs with the Predators and when the Tennessee Titans, when they showed up. That was awesome. I was literally, mind you, I'm a diehard Denver Bronco fan. I grew up in Denver, but I'm a hardcore Predator fan. Mm-hmm. And I was watching that, and I'm like, wow, so much energy. Is there any way they can have that in their stadium?
Good question. And I think it's a question that the Titans organization had to have been asking themselves while watching this Predators run, Johan, because you're right. This city was electric around those games, and the Titans got involved. I mean, we saw Mike Mularkey and John Robinson, Marcus Mariota, the offensive line. We saw all of those guys there. They were a part of that. They felt it, and that's what they want to create at Nissan Stadium. I think if we look back in time, when the Titans were rolling at the beginning, when they went to the Super Bowl in the '99 season and the few years after that, the Coliseum, as it was called at the time, was one of the toughest places to play in all of the NFL because people just believed they were going to win. The team was really good. The place was packed and it was loud. If this team gets back to winning, I think you'll see more of that. As the year progressed last year and they won more and more, the stadium filled up more, it became a better environment. I think there's a level of excitement going into this year that will make it feel different, at least at the start, than it has for quite some time at the beginning of a season around here. I think some of that Preds energy will carry over. I think the fact they won 9 games a year ago will carry over.
Yeah.
They're playing the Raiders in week 1. That is a potential, to some people, top 2 or 3 matchup in the AFC to start the year off. I mean, that's kind of like a playoff game in week 1. I expect that atmosphere to be fantastic. Now, it's up for the Titans to go out and win a game like that or keep winning in September and October to keep the fans coming, because as we saw in '99 or in some of those years, when you keep winning, or better yet, recently with the Predators, when you win a little, the snowball starts to happen. And as you win more and more, it grows and grows and grows, and the atmosphere becomes unbelievable. I think that can happen at Nissan Stadium, but it's going to take wins. It's going to take them to do it on the field now.
I think very good.
All right. Thanks, Johan. We appreciate the call. Good thoughts. I mean, that to me is going to be a fascinating thing to watch this fall at Nissan Stadium, because I think that very first game against the Raiders is going to be so telling about where this team and where the franchise is right now. I mean, number one, as you enter this season, I think most people will say that the Patriots, who may have even improved their roster after winning the Super Bowl last year, are the favorites in the AFC. But after that, I think there's a lot of people out there who believe the next 2 best teams in the AFC, in some order, are the Raiders and the Titans. And here they are playing in week number 1 in Nashville, with Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota coming back from their leg injuries, supposedly both 100% ready to go. I just think that game is going to be fascinating in a way that we've not had a game played here in Nashville in quite some time. You're talking about 2 AFC contenders. At least that's what we believe at the beginning of the year. You get a look at them. You've got 2 of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL coming off of injuries. You get a look at just how comfortable they are in their first truly live action since the injury a year ago. And here in the city of Nashville, you're talking about a stadium that has been stale and a team that has given its fans heartache for basically a decade now. But last year showed progress, and I think there's some excitement. I think we're going to see that when we get into training camp and we keep talking about this team and the preseason and all that. But it will culminate on September the 10th at Nissan Stadium in Newton. What will the crowd be like? What will the atmosphere be like around this Titans team? I think that will be fascinating, because I think that Nissan Stadium should be sold out for that game. And not just sold out, but every seat should be filled. It should feel like one of those Predators playoff games, and the atmosphere should be like one of those Predators playoff games. I think there's a decent chance that will be the case, but I don't know, because we haven't seen it around this Titans team for such a long time now. This is the year, and potentially the team, that they can turn that corner and go back to having one of the dominant home field advantages in the National Football League. And it's going to start that day. Just in terms of a season opener, I can't remember a time when not just the Titans, but really any team that I've been around had such a pivotal opening game as this one, for all of those reasons I just mentioned. I think that will be truly fascinating to watch as we start the season. All right, we got to take a break here. Phone lines are open. This is your show tonight. We had Dwight and we had Johan calling in. They had good stuff. Let's continue that discussion. 737-7767 is the number. We have a wide open bank right now, so call us up. It'll be a short wait. Get in on the program, and we'll continue this discussion. Plus more. We got Derek Barnett. Hear from Riley LaChance of Vanderbilt basketball. Roger Federer, the great Roger Federer, as well, coming up on the program tonight as well. Again, phone lines open, 737-7767. More SportsLine on the way right after this here on News Channel 5 Plus.